We asked our readers on Facebook if you could retheme, change, or update one Disney ride, what would it be? The first ride you nominated for the chopping block is
Tomorrowland Speedway.
Listen, I'm sorry. I just immediately have to jump in here and say that this is the correct answer for rides that should be rethemed, changed, or updated. It's just outright the correct answer. I don't make the rules. I just factually, objectively.
It sounds like you're making the rules.
Okay.
But go on. So sorry to interrupt, Ryan. Okay, carry on. Gosh. What is it? What is Tomorrowland Speedway?
What is it? For anyone who does not know, Tomorrowland Speedway is a ride over in Tomorrowland at Magic Kingdom. It's the one, that smells like a gas station. You hop in the little car, you drive it around. Super fun for kiddos. You might walk past it every single time and you don't even know that it's there. So that's why it's on the list.
Here's the thing is I actually do also like the smell of gasoline. Like at the gas station, I'm like,
yeah,
yes.
It's like a nice scent. I'm not saying I would wear it as a perfume, but I like the way that smells. So if that is like a reason that people are knocking this ride, I don't know.
Tomorrowland Speedway, the reason this is one of my least favorite rides in Disney World. It might be my least favorite ride in Disney World. It's obviously an iconic ride. It is an opening day attraction. You're in those little cars. The pedals are so hard to push down on. Like, why are they that hard to push down on? And the wheel, when you turn it, does not do what it is. I can drive a real car. I drive my real car every day. I get on the highway.
Debatable.
And I drive it. I can drive a real car, but those little cars, you turn the wheel and it's like, bing bong, bing bong, bing bong.
Maybe that's just because you're so tall, though.
I mean, I think it's fun. I don't do it every time. It's not a must-do, but I enjoy driving them.
I think it's part of the experience, getting tossed.
And I could see how Fry Bucket would enjoy having a car that is made for her size for once.
It's literally my size. It is.
Yeah, and that's really, why I think that's why kids like it.
I've been realizing lately that as a kid, there were a lot of things that I found exciting that are just normal, boring adult things. There was a time in school we got to learn how to write checks, and that was so cool and fun and exciting. And driving a car is kind of like that. When you're a kid, it's so novel, especially because you get to do it on a speedway. If this was just running errands and going to the grocery store in your car, I can see how maybe the appeal wouldn't be there. But having the chance to not only drive a car but race it on a speedway is pretty exciting for a kid. For someone like me who is making trips to the bank, not as fun.
But do we feel like race and speedway are applicable to this slow-moving car ride? Because I just don't necessarily think of those two words.
I will say I like this episode though, because we get to take this ride that is maybe not our favorites or maybe not the most popular, which is why it tends to have a short wait of 5 to 25 minutes depending on the day. It can spike on really busy days, but pretty short wait usually. So I like this that we get to retheme it and actually make it something that would be desirable. So what kind of ideas do they have? The readers.
The readers have a lot of ideas, and some of them are pretty good. So, for our first one, Lauren said, Tomorrowland Speedway. I'd change it to electric cars and retheme it to Wreck-It Ralph.
I'm a big fan because Wreck-It Ralph also, a lot of Tomorrowland Speedway suggestions I feel like don't fit Tomorrowland and they don't fit Fantasyland, which you could theoretically rope Tomorrowland Speedway into Fantasyland, but most of the ideas don't fit those two. You know what does? The internet. Wreck-It Ralph.
100%.
Internet, high speed.
I like that idea. I think it would be fun. I think that the aesthetic of it would be great. I would love to see them totally redesign the entire track as well as the cars and see the different candy that they would be inspired by.
Yeah, I agree.
I would love that.
Amy had another great idea. Tomorrowland Speedway, all of that exhaust is terrible for the environment and the cast members. Go electric, theme it to cars.
So this is what I'm talking about. Cars the movie doesn't feel very tomorrow or very fantasy.
A talking car is not fantasy to you?
I'll have you know that when I was in elementary school, we had a talking bus come by. His name was Gus the Bus, and he would drive to all the different elementary schools, and you could go on Gus the Bus, and he would teach you about safety and the windshield was his eyes, just like Lightning McQueen, and the wipers were his eyelids, and he was a talking bus, and you could talk to him. So talking cars are not fantasy. There's a real one.
It was a big thing.
You remember Gus the Bus?
No, I don't. But I know other people that have spoken of him.
I've also always felt like Cars was more like Toy Story, where it's like, yes, cars in real life do all talk and have personalities. It's just only when we are not around. It's like an Andy's coming kind of vibe. Like if I look out in the parking lot right now, my car is going to be there not talking to the other cars, but right now, my car's talking to the other cars. Are there any non-IP ideas? I'm curious. IP, for those that don't know, is intellectual property, which is anytime that Disney uses something from a movie or from a property that they own. From any of these. I put this here on purpose for this specific gesture.
Brian said Tomorrowland Speedway is the obvious one for a retheme. Tesla should sponsor it.
But electric cars in general, I'm very much behind. And I don't necessarily think, Brian has a good point. I don't think Tomorrowland Speedway necessarily needs a new theme. I think it just needs more comfortable ride vehicles and an update. There's a lot of people that really like the holiday overlay at Tomorrowland Speedway. It's like one of everyone's favorites. You can like get a driver's license, which is one of those like free souvenirs that still exists in Disney World at the little kiosk at the exit. So I don't necessarily think it needs a full-on retheme or like to get torn down and replaced. I just think it probably needs ride vehicles that don't take every single fiber of the muscle in my calf to press the gas pedal. I just don't think they need it. Grand Fiesta Tour in Epcot with the 3 Caballeros. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to all of you. Wow. I thought Emma was just reacting dramatically, but I looked at all of your face. Listen, okay? So Grand Fiesta Tour is currently a boat ride in the Mexico Pavilion inside the Mexico Pyramid, where you hop on a boat and you join the 3 Caballeros, Panchito, Jose, and Donald. Donald's gone missing. Imagine the story of Finding Nemo, but with Donald instead of Nemo. And Panchito and Jose are looking for him, and you kind of float through all these very beautiful Mexican scenes looking for Donald. And he's getting into some antics. He's cliff diving. He's dancing. He does a lot of stuff. And then they do get reunited at the end, and you get to go to a 3 Caballeros show where the 3 are performing together. That's pretty much Grand Fiesta Tour. It is great because it always has a short wait. It's inside in the air conditioning. It is a much needed reprieve from the sun of Epcot. You are sitting down, which is hard to find a bench in Epcot. You guys notice that? It's like a nightmare.
Sometimes you end up buying something in like one country, and then you end up having to like traverse across the world to sit down to eat your food.
Literally. Like, that's so true. I'm always sitting in Morocco, and I'll be eating something from like China. Like, it's like across the park. No offense to Donald, he is my favorite of the Fab Five. However, I just don't think the 3 Caballeros are the big ticket items that they used to be. I think there's a bigger ticket item, one that is near and dear to many hearts, mostly mine though, and that is Coco. And I think that Coco should be the retheme that occurs at Grand Fiesta Tour. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Thoughts?
The thing that stinks is I agree with you a little bit. Because I think Coco would be such an amazing IP to put in that spot. But I also my heart started racing when you brought up the thought of getting rid of Donald and the 3 Caballeros, because I love that there's no wait and I can just walk on and enjoy it. And I know if Coco was there, it would be a huge chunk of my day. That's the only reason. Yeah, I don't disagree. I just don't know that I want to give up my short wait time.
Well, Quincy, for this ride, do you see it remaining the same? Like, it's just going to be a boat ride with music, or do you think that they should add more things to it?
Yeah, well, at heart, I am a boat lover and part boat. So I fully want it to remain a boat. I want it to remain a boat ride. It can be the same length. They don't have to redo the ride system. I think all they would really need to redo is the queue, because like Emma said, I think that right now with the Caballeros, the queue is very, very small. It's very tight, and that works because you move through it so quickly. And it does have a high capacity, like Small World or Landing with the Land, but it's still going to be a long wait if they were to redo it with Coco. So I think they would need a bigger queue. But otherwise, I think keep the ride system the same, keep the boat, just play the Coco music, take you through the story of Coco, pull out all those screens that show the Mexico scenes, and instead give full physical sets and animatronics of scenes from Coco and the Land of the Dead and the Graveyard and the Ofrenda and things like that. And I'm not the only one. Kelly said 3 Caballeros should be turned into Coco Land of the Dead ride. Correct. Tara said, I would change the Donald ride to Coco. She didn't even know the name of 3 Caballeros. And you know what? She would know the name of the Coco ride.
No,
Joe
she
said
just called she just called it the Coco ride.
Maybe. That's what I'm going to call it. And then Joe said would love to see Mexico themed to Coco. So Kelly, Tara, and Joe, you guys want to hang out? I think that we could maybe make some signs to go protest outside of Epcot and get... We give us the Coco
just 4
ride.
people. 4 people out front with their little signs.
Listen, they're not the only ones. Once again, hello commenters. Tell me if you would join me in a protest at the gates of Epcot for the Coco ride.
I'm not anti the Coco change. Okay, I love Donald. I love the 3 Caballeros. Also, just changing the overlay, I feel like that's not good enough for Coco. I feel like Coco deserves its own original ride.
Yeah.
You know, like if we're just replacing the theming in there, I don't think that's good enough. I think it deserves better than that. And I don't think the space is big enough, honestly.
Well, interestingly, it's possible that 3 Caballeros is safe from a Coco overlay because at D23 this year, which is Disney's fan conference where they talk about what's coming, they talked about blue sky ideas, which are just big ideas that the Imagineers have that may or may not happen, just things that they're thinking they could do. And one of the blue sky ideas they discussed is using the land behind Big Thunder Mountain in Magic Kingdom and expanding it to include stories such as Encanto, such as Coco, and such as villain stories. So it looks like, at least in the idea of Imagineers, a Coco land or a Coco as a part of a land is under consideration, which might mean that 3 Caballeros is safe, because if Coco's going to get a whole land somewhere, then why would they put the ride in an Epcot? So
I was going to
counter with Moana, because
Moana,
if Moana's getting her own attraction in Epcot, you think, oh, she's done, she doesn't need any more. But they also announced possibly retheming DinoLand and Animal Kingdom to Moana. Mm-hmm. So maybe. So
you're telling me I can have both a Coco ride and a Coco land?
Don't get her hopes up.
I will say, regardless, I think what's very important is that Grand Fiesta Tour is a family attraction. Everyone can go on it. There is no height requirement. Babies can go on it. Whole family can get on that ride. And I think that that's important to keep around because it's important to have a good mix of those. I think Grand Fiesta Tour is it's a staple of a ride that the whole family can enjoy. And I think that it would be important to keep that aspect if it did get a retheme, whether to Coco or to something else that's not as good of an idea as Coco.
All right, so for our third discussion today, this one actually makes me sad because it's one of my favorite rides in all of Disney World. But a lot of you guys, a lot of our readers think that maybe it's time for a Rock and Roller Coaster update. And in case you don't know what Rock and Roller Coaster is a quick little roller coaster ride that takes you through the freeways of LA, and you're in a stretch limo trying to get to an Aerosmith concert. Unfortunately for us, though, it's that Aerosmith concert that people feel like needs to hit the road.
Oh my gosh, I am very surprised that people think we need to retheme this attraction. I think it's a classic Hollywood Studios ride. I think it's wildly popular. It's always on a must-do list, you know? I'm interested because the retheme, it would just be, a different band? Like, it wouldn't be that different, you know?
That's what I'm thinking, is a different band.
Different
bands. How would that make it better?
Well, it's not necessary. It's just more about keeping it maybe more relevant. My favorite bit that I do in my own life is to watch the pre-show prior to Rock and Roller Coaster where you get to see Aerosmith. And I love to look at whoever I'm standing with and go, oh my gosh, it's modern day Aerosmith. Because it's obviously 20 plus years old. But Nancy thinks that it would be a really good idea to switch Rock and Roller Coaster to a Goofy Movie Powerline theme.
I think that the I definitely think that it's a great ride, and I can totally understand why it's still so popular, because the ride itself is so much fun, and having that indoor roller coaster element with all the neon lights in the dark that's super fast is really fun. But Aerosmith, not as widely appealing as it may have been. And so with the Goofy movie, I can see how that's kind of like a retro throwback that people who grew up on it would love, but also kids now might be interested in it as well.
There are two Quincy's and they're fighting right now on the inside of me. One of the Quincy's is like, yes, Goofy movie retheme. And I even think it makes more sense now because Goofy movie flopped when it came out. But now Goofy movie is wildly popular. The merch sells like crazy. They had Powerline Max at Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party this year. And it was like the thing that everyone wanted to see. It was like, forget Jack and Sally. Give me Powerline Max. He was all over TikTok. Everybody loved him. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, I think people would love a Powerline ride. The other side of me is like, I get that Aerosmith is a little outdated, but Rock and Roller Coaster actually has a similarity to one of Disney World's newest rides, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, which similarly is a roller coaster where you can get a different song every time you ride. They're not all the same artist like Rock and Roller Coaster is, but every single song on there is not modern. It's not new. The songs that play on Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind are all iconic songs that are throwbacks, which is obviously because of the movie, but everybody loves it. And so I think that the Aerosmith songs maybe aren't quite as popular as the ones that are on Guardians of the Galaxy. Maybe some of them are, but like Walk This Way, that's probably about as iconic as some of those songs on Guardians. But I think that a musical replacement might not be as successful because I think that Aerosmith has proven to be a band that stands the test of time, whereas anything you added modern music-wise, everyone might hate in 5 years with how fast tastes change. And I don't know, maybe a Goofy movie's a fad. I mean, people didn't like it for a long time.
I think what solidifies me that maybe it's time to change is when I previously worked at Rock and Roller Coaster in the gift shop. Someone asked me if Disney made up this band for the ride. And that was my moment of, oh, maybe the younger generation doesn't know who Aerosmith is. But Diane, one of our readers, has a good idea that isn't necessarily Goofy movie, but she said, what if we did a Rock and Roller Coaster that we changed to Kronk and Yzma from Emperor's New Groove?
A lot of us have been waiting for that Kronk and Yzma ride, I think, for a long time.
I don't feel like this is a good retheme for Rock and Roller Coaster. However, there has never been something I've watched in my whole life, like where they pull the lever and go down the roller coaster to get to Yzma's lab, that I haven't been like, oh my goodness, get me on that ride. And I wouldn't be that upset. Just because that's all I've ever wanted since I saw Emperor's New Groove for the first time.
I was actually obsessed with the TV show when I was younger, like the Emperor's New School. I loved that show.
I don't know. I feel like it would be pretty popular.
I feel like it could go either way. I honestly feel like Goofy movie might be a little more popular, but I don't know. I think I would want Emperor's New Groove better, but I recognize it's personal. I think the tricky thing here is that Rock and Roller Coaster is presently, today, one of the more popular. I mean, all the rides in Hollywood Studios are popular except for like 2, but it's a very, very popular attraction. Most days it has a wait that's 45 minutes to 90 minutes on average. It's got a single rider line that the wait can even get long on. It can be a hot ticket because the Genie Plus lanes will fill up over the course of the day. So it's still very popular despite the fact that it's Aerosmith. So I'm almost like, if Disney was gonna,
it's one of the few like super true, like if you're the kind of person who's going to Disney and is like, ugh, I only like theme parks for the thrill rides, Rock and Roller Coaster is gonna be like top of your list. So people who are looking for thrill rides are probably gonna go on that ride regardless of the theming because they want to be on a roller coaster.
Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking is that, like, because it's so popular, if Disney has the budget for a ride retheme, I'd rather they use it on something that really could use a lift.
this is probably the scariest ride that we're going to talk about today, and it is Dinosaur. Unlike what I thought the first time I was riding it, that it was going to be a slow, dark ride that would inform you about the dinosaurs, similar to Spaceship Earth, it is not. It is a terror fest where you are sent back in time by some sketch scientists trying to retrieve this tiny little dinosaur, and this guy who is very irresponsible makes you, tourists, stay there longer than you should be because he's interested in getting some extra info. What is it he's trying to get? Like an egg or something?
He wants to bring the whole dinosaur back.
Hannah has no idea because I want to be clear. Hannah's
My
fear that
eyes
she's
were
talking
closed
about,
the whole time.
I took her on it, and I was like, Hannah, I love this ride. It's one of my favorite rides in Disney World. When I was a teenager, this was my favorite ride for many years because it was super thrilling, and teens love thrill. And
But
I was
no,
like, Hannah,
no background information. No explanation
yeah,
of what this ride was.
It's dinosaurs. And then we got on it, and she spent the entire time like, just like, so she doesn't really know what the ride's about.
The responsible researchers are sending you, you're on like a tourist trip to go back in time, similar to Jurassic World. You're going back in time, but there's this guy who's like, oh, don't worry, you'll have time to grab this
Grant
dinosaur. Don't like him. There's a comet. First of all, it's dangerous because there's dinosaurs everywhere, but there's a comet that's coming too. And I'm stressing out because are we going to make it? Are we going to make it? Plus you have these, like, you're going around, jerking around. The dinosaurs are like, I don't like that. I am all for a retheme. It's clearly not my favorite ride. What do you guys think about it? Do you guys like going on this ride? Because I most certainly do not.
Hannah's got beef with Dr. Seeker.
No, Hannah does.
I do. He's irresponsible.
Fry, I know that Emma and I are both die-hard dinosaur fans. Fry, what do you think of Dinosaur?
I like it. I enjoy the ride. It's not my absolute favorite. And I'm kind of halfway in between because, I mean, Emma will go on and on all day long about how much she loves Dr. Seeker. And Hannah just gave us that whole roast of a speech. I'm somewhere in the middle because I'm also kind of like, why am I having to do Dr. Seeker's work? Like, why is he not coming with me?
Yeah.
He super wanted to come along, but he got in trouble for attempting this already on his own.
Yeah, so
Well,
he's gonna.
why are we agreeing to go with him?
I don't know.
I don't trust
But
him.
the ride itself is fun. I think it's another one of those that Disney World kind of needs because it is a thrill ride. It is the scariest ride in Disney World. It's the only ride that has a warning sign outside for how scary it is, not just for kids. But
I
for
never
adults
saw
too.
that.
Hannah?
Quincy must have purposefully distracted me so I didn't see it as we were going in.
It
She was like,
exists.
"Look over
It
there," and
does
I was like,
exist. So, I mean, I don't think I would be a little sad if we rethemed it, but as long as it stayed that level of thrill, I would be okay. Because we need it. We need it.
I would be sad and nostalgic for Dr. Grant Seeker and the storyline of Dinosaur, like fully would be, because like that is like I that's what I've been loving for years and years and years. I love that ride and that storyline, and it's so funny. But I agree that as long as it stayed scary, my fear is that a retheme would not keep it as scary.
I'm sorry to say that a lot of our readers think that the retheme should be to Zootopia. And granted, there are some terrifying moments in Zootopia when the predators start to really lose their marbles and
The
are going
DMV
after
scenes,
the prey.
Those are scary.
I mean, the DMV in real life
The DMV is scary.
makes me scared. It's a scary place. But one of our readers, Keith, he said specifically that not just Dinosaur, but all of DinoLand USA should be rethemed to Zootopia, and that Dinosaur could instead be a police chase. So I guess he would still have some sort of excitement level there. He had some pretty harsh words, though. He said eventually a retirement of all of stupid DinoLand.
Wow. I mean, the good
That
news
was
is,
fighting words, Keith.
luckily for Keith, they have announced that D23, one of those blue sky ideas was, what do we do with DinoLand? And as Emma and Fry already mentioned, one of the options was Moana, and the other that he mentioned was Zootopia. I don't love either of those ideas for Animal Kingdom. In fact, I think that Animal Kingdom should have like a Central and South America land that features Coco and Encanto instead of Magic Kingdom. But they're literally considering Zootopia, and of course there is a Zootopia land opening at Shanghai, the Shanghai Disney Park, and they could pull a lot of the stuff they have over there to Disney World and not have to do as much development, which Disney does tend to do with some of their international parks. So I think it's a possibility. I don't love it. I just don't see a world where I feel the same level of fear in my bones and in my blood being chased by a police tiger.
I will say that not everybody thought that it had to be a huge overhaul retheme. We did have Amy say that she just wanted the update to make the ride just a little bit smoother. She said that right now it's just way too jerky and a lot of people feel sore when they leave the ride. And if they could just make it like you didn't have to get a chiropractor appointment after you came off, that she would be happy with that kind of an update.
See, I use Dinosaur as my chiropractor appointment.
Emma, as we've learned today in this conversation, and as I know is having to go to the park with her a lot, loves to be just thrown around by a ride vehicle. That's why she likes Tomorrowland Speedway. That's why she likes Dinosaur. Y'all ever seen her on the teacups? It's upsetting. It's
take some Dramamine.
Isn't the Alien Swirling Saucers one of your favorite rides?
No, that's Fry, who's crazy down in the corner.
I remember talking to one of you guys about how that ride had the sad Jessie song, but they tried to make it upbeat, and it was weird.
Yeah,
no, that I do discuss a lot.
It's amazing, and I love it, and I will die on that hill. But that's another day.
I think the reason, similar to Rock and Roller Coaster, this Dinosaur fills a very important void in Disney World of a ride that actually has some thrill to it. And there is Expedition Everest in Animal Kingdom now, which is easily one of Disney World's biggest thrill rides. But I think Dinosaur, for me, even more than Tower of Terror, is the only one that no matter how much I love it, towards the end of the ride, I start to get oh my goodness, fun fear on that ride. And I would be sad to lose that because I don't think that's represented anywhere else in Disney World or even down the road at Universal. So I'd be really sad to lose that actually scary ride in favor of even the same ride system with Zootopia. I could get behind making it smoother. I do like how jerky it is, but I know that makes it inaccessible to a lot of people because though I don't, my body can handle jerking around, a lot of people's bodies cannot handle being jerked around at that level. It can be painful. It can be an issue for those who have medical complications. The opposite of Emma's, that she needs it as her chiropractor. So I think that I would be okay with that. Even if I like it a little jerkier, I think that more people could ride it and enjoy it if it were a little smoother. So I can back that.
If you guys had to absolutely change it, if Disney said, this ride is going to fail, it is losing us money, we need to do something to make it new and give it a fresh coat of paint to entice people, what would you do to it to see it change? Whether you would add a new IP or a different storyline, what would you do there?
So I just said I would like for DinoLand to become a Central and South America land with Encanto and Coco. So what if Dinosaur was the cable cars in the Land of the Dead in Coco? If it was an off-the-rails cable car through the Land of the Dead, maybe Ernesto de la Cruz does something to throw the cable car off the rails, an original story.
Honestly, I'll give you that, but the only thing that I could think of the whole time you were describing this ride was a giant Ernesto de la Cruz head coming down at you at the very end, where the dinosaur comes out.
Oh, the dinosaur comes out.
I was oh my gosh, it's Ernesto de la Cruz! That's all I could think about.
All of my ideas are Coco related, but hire me.
I think a lot of us like Dinosaur the way that it is, and if it were to change, I think that overall we think it would kind of be a net loss if it were to turn into something that is less scary than it is, because we do have thrill rides at Disney that are more physical based, like roller coasters and Tower of Terror, but something like Dinosaur is pretty unique, and I don't know, maybe it should stay, maybe it shouldn't. What do you guys think? Do you think it's too scary and it just doesn't need to be at Disney? Do you think it needs to be tweaked a little bit, or just leave it the way that it is? I don't know. Let us know in the comments. I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. Get rid of it. No.